I'm Mary McKiernan, and Zidonia Henry will be interviewing me for my cultural diversity course.
First question, what is your definition of culture?
My definition of culture is those common things that bind people together.
How do you define family?
I define family as those people in your life that have your back, and for me in particular, I have all of my family is in Rhode Island still. My parents are deceased, so I really have had to rely on my military family, and then of course I have my children here in Philadelphia with me.
Who holds the most status in your family?
I think holding the most status in my family when he was still alive would have been my father. My father grew up very poor in South Providence, and he had Irish relatives that really took care of him, and then he in turn had to take care of all his younger siblings, making sure that all his sisters got married and all his brothers had jobs. So my father didn't settle down and get married until he was much, much older.
How important is education in your family?
Education is really important in my family. My father had a bachelor's degree and a law degree, and myself and my two brothers and sisters all have bachelor's degrees.
Is punctuality important to you?
I do like to always be on time. I hate when I'm late. Every once in a while I am late, but I agree that the early bird catches the worm. So a lot of times if you're early to something, you get the better deal.
Do you eat foods that are indigenous to your culture? Why or why not?
I'm Irish and French, so generally Irish people, I don't really know what they eat, and we didn't have any native Irish dishes. My mom was French Canadian, and she would make a French meat pie, and that was really good, and we would make that sometimes, but I haven't made that in quite a while. So generally I would say we probably don't eat particular foods.
Did you ever live with your grandparents or extended family?
I never lived with my grandparents or extended family, no.
Do you actively participate in an organized religion?
I was raised Roman Catholic, and we always went to church, and I stayed Roman Catholic until I was about in college. And then when my oldest daughter was born, I actually joined an African American Baptist church and was reborn. And my two daughters have been baptized in an African American Baptist church, but none of us attend church regularly anymore. But we do believe in a higher power, and we are spiritual, I would say.
How important is religion in your family, and why?
Again, I just felt it was really important to at least have my daughters baptized. I definitely didn't abide by the Catholic teachings anymore, but I think for that period in my life when I joined that church up in Providence, it really carried me through a lot of stuff. So I think having a faith and having spirituality is very important.
That's great. If religion is important in your family, do you plan to pass it to your children?
I have passed it to my children in the sense that they were baptized and they're Baptist per se, but we don't go to organized church, and I can't picture them passing it on to their families, really. Like, they'll pass on some kind of sense of spirituality, but they probably won't attend church regularly.
Are the roles of men and women specifically defined in your family?
I would say no, because I'm a single mom, so I am the role, and I'm it. So I have to pretty much do everything.
Define and describe the most important holiday of your culture.
Our holidays are just, I think our favorite holidays are Christmas and New Year's. Not Christmas and New Year's, Thanksgiving and Christmas and that whole season of holidays, but we don't really, we don't have defined holidays that aren't the regular traditional holidays that a lot of people take part in.
If you are from a culture that speaks English as a second language, do you speak your native language? If so, will you teach your native language to any of your children?
My mom was raised with only French-speaking people, and she wanted to teach us French and English when we were growing up, and my father didn't feel like we needed that, so that is a heartbreaking thing to this day, because I minored in French in college, and I can hardly speak it now, because it's rusty and pretty much gone. So, I wish that she had taught us French and English.
So you can't teach it to your children?
No, Kennedy can speak it because she took a lot of it in college, but as far as Olivia, no, I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to get on Rosetta Stone or something.
What is considered most disrespectful in your culture?
I think most disrespectful is just people being disrespectful in general, and I think that respect is very important for anyone, so.
What would you say is, from your perspective, the most commonly held misconception about people of your culture?
I don't think there's any real common misperceptions about people that are white. Unfortunately, I learned taking this cultural diversity class and really digging and delving into things. You do realize that there's white privilege out there, and it's unfortunate, but it's there. But I think if more white people are willing to discuss it and are aware that they have that privilege, that makes the world a better place if they can get people more on an equitable playing field. So I don't think that there's any real disrespect. Now, there's disrespect against being a woman, and being a woman in the military is still a pretty rare thing. So I think that, that can come into play a little bit, but as far as like my particular nationalities, no, there's not really.
Have you ever experienced racism?
I haven't experienced racism personally, but my family members, since they are half black, have, or I've seen people that I love be followed in stores or be called the N-word by white people in a really disparaging way. Or I will never forget my daughter when she was in 4th grade. I don't think her teacher liked her. I really don't think her teacher liked her, and she lived in Rhode Island when she was in 4th grade, so it was not a diverse area at all, and I wanted to switch her out of the class, and they wouldn't let me switch her out of the class. So in 4th grade, she had migraines the whole school year, and she was on liquid migraine medication, and then as soon as the summer started, she was off the liquid migraine medication and she was fine. So I know that there had to be something with that teacher, who was a white lady, unfortunately, but I couldn't get her out of that situation, so.
Do young people today have a sense of culture?
I think sometimes they do. I'd like to think they do, but I think that some of our culture is fading. I think maybe families don't value it as much and it's not passed on, so it's hard to tell.
What is the best thing about living in the USA?
The best thing about living in the United States of America is that we are still free. We have the right to vote. We have the right to make this a better place, if we really put some effort in.
What is the worst thing about living in the USA?
I think the gun violence is the worst thing. I think that other nations have been able to solve the gun violence and all the crime, like Australia banned a lot of assault weapons and they haven't had mass shootings, but we've had an awful lot of mass shootings in the US. Just people being killed so senselessly, so I think that's the worst thing.
Is there anything else that you would like to share about your culture?
I think I've shared enough, and I really appreciate you doing this for me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.